I've personally spent far too much time in my life optimizing a chatbot for a Fortune 100 company. And then having weekly meetings with the IVR team to make sure that all the new content I was putting in was in synchronization with the IVR. Or if the IVR had some new issues or some new intents, they would tell me, and then I'd go build it in my NLU for the chatbot. And it wasn't fun at all. And so I've had the pleasure of chatting with Jordi and Livio before. We've been on webcasts together. First of all, the conversations are always thoughtful, and I just enjoy them as humans. But this is exactly the kind of challenge. Like at Inbenta, you have a world-class chatbot that's functioning. It's functioning exactly the way you want. But okay, how are we going to connect that to a channel of choice, being voice? One NLU, one system to kind of communicate with them all. So that's what we're here to talk about today. Jordi Torras, founder and CEO of Inbenta, and Livio Pugliese, I want to get it right, President and CEO of North America Interactive Media. Thanks so much for joining, and I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you, Scott. My name is Livio Pugliese. I am with Interactive Media, and Interactive Media has a long and deep experience in voice. Started in '96, so CTI, voicemail, IVR. Then we went into conversational AI back in 2010, and we have several customers. The company is Italian, so in Italy, we have a system that gets call for the Social Security Administration there, and does call steering and does some self-service to the tune of about 6 million calls per month. So it's very robust, very telco grade. And the problem with this is that there's a lot to do for every project. And so it doesn't scale very well. So a couple of years ago, we decided, or maybe 3, we decided that we would split our platform in 2 and actually provide the possibility for chatbots to augment themselves with the voice channel as a service. So this is really about how we are working with Inbenta for a number of projects. And I wanted to show a little bit how this works.
All right, thank you, Livio. My name is Jordi Torras. We're both from Europe, right?
Oh, yeah.
So, founder and CEO of Inbenta. I started this journey in 2005, so a long time ago. And back then, the problem that we were trying to solve is, hey, we have a lot of calls in our call center. And on the website, we have a lot of FAQs, which solve and answer most of the questions that we are getting answered over the phone. So the question is why our customers are not checking the FAQs instead of calling us, right? We have 2,000 FAQs, so obviously it has to be there somewhere. We also put a search engine, which is great, but still, they are still calling us. So that was the problem, right? And the solution was, well, you do have good set of frequently asked questions, but going one by one is not realistic, so no customer is going to make that gigantic effort of reading all the FAQs, and your search is keyword. So if I'm using a word that is in the answer, in the frequently asked question, and with a little bit of luck, I'm going to get some answers that are relevant. But in most cases, the answers are absolutely relevant. So that was the problem that we solved. It's like, okay, how can we make a search engine that searches effectively frequently asked questions? That was the origin, and that's how we started. And we realized that in order to do that, essentially you have to understand the meaning of every frequently asked question and the meaning of every user question and matched by meaning. That was the origin. That's how we started with semantic search. And we are still, nowadays, basically, almost 20 years later, still solving the problem.
Yeah, so the funny thing is that Jordi is from Barcelona, I'm from Turin, Italy, and we both live in Santa Cruz, California. So this is about this service of interactive media called PhoneMyBot that enhances chatbots with voice interactions. Right? And we all know what the problems are here. I'm not going to even talk about the ones, the premises on the left. We all know that conversational AI is good for customer service or customer experience, if you want. We've talked about it a lot now. But conversational AI is, at the moment, mostly chatbots. There is voice, of course, but not very widespread. And really, a lot of calls still come into the contact center. Adding voice channels to chatbots is hard for a number of reasons that I'll go through later. And as I said, virtual agents that handle voice exist, but the implementation is costly and takes a long time. As we know, because we do it. Right? So there's a huge opportunity to adding voice to deploy chatbots. So if we can take what is already there in terms of knowledge base, conversational intelligence, and everything that is needed for a conversational AI for the chatbots, then the service has been developed, and being able to just add voice adds a lot of value. The voice challenges for chatbots are many and complicated to solve. I mean, one of the main problems is really that there are thousands, I would say, of companies that implement chatbots in the world. They all focus on conversational AI. And they have no idea how to do things with voice. Things to be done are to provision carrier trunks for telephone calls coming in, or integrating with the PBX in a corporate environment. The integration also has to be with the IVR and the contact center, because of course, you won't be able to solve every interaction coming in. You have to be able to send it to an agent. And while there are certain APIs to connect chat with the contact center and the agents in the contact center, they're completely different from the ones that you have to use for voice. Then, of course, you will need transcription, and optimally managing transcription or speech-to-text engines is complicated. So just the same as actually tuning and managing text-to-speech engines. And as I said, the skill set is different for what's needed in chatbot and what chatbot companies have. And of course, when you need to do voice, you need to do it yesterday. So the customer is very keen on having it and have to be quick, and this is not easy as well. So PhoneMyBot really wants to be the solution for these problems, being in the middle and acting as a transparent glue, if you want, between the voice channel that lets the voice get into the server of PhoneMyBot. It manages several speech-to-text engines and text-to-speech engines. And obviously, it talks with the chatbot in several ways. I'll talk about that later, but there is an API, but also connectors. And it talks with the contact center. So the key service feature is that it has to be done as a service. So in fact, it is pay-as-you-go. And it has the open API and adapters and a dashboard that either the final customer or the integrator, if you want, or the chatbot company can use to see what's going on. And we strive to make it as universal as possible with integration with several speech-to-text engines for different languages, different use cases, and even different, let's say, snippets of conversation, optimizing the particular speech engine for the particular use case. You can go to PhoneMyBot.com and start free trial and POC from there. I want to say a little bit about what is voice for PhoneMyBot. So voice is the telephone coming in, of course, but also it's recorded voice messages that may get to the chatbots. And of course, the chatbots has no idea what to do about it. So this is particularly true, not really in the United States, but in the rest of the world for WhatsApp. I have several friends who, instead of typing on WhatsApp, they just record a voice message and send it to me. So if you do that to the chatbot, it's obviously a conversation stopper. And keep in mind that it's not something that people do on a whim. There are places like in Brazil, for instance, where we have a big presence, where this is normal because people don't really know how to type or don't really, they have problems. They speak to communicate. And don't assume that people are always, your user are just like us, right? So a little bit about the structure of PhoneMyBot. You get in from voice networks, and then there is a layer that connects with the telephone network, the contact center, and transfers the calls back into the contact center if necessary. And then the engine that manages the ASR or speech-to-text and text-to-speech, looking at what's the best for the particular use case. Then there are the API in the back, and obviously PhoneMyBot has its own API, but what really we wanted to do is to make it basically no code to connect with PhoneMyBot. So we use adapters to implement the native API of the platform of Connect with Us. So one of them, of course, is Inbenta, but there are also like Watson, Dialogflow, and so on and so forth. So one thing I didn't say is that one other possibility for this is that the chatbot may initiate a call in this case. Of course, PhoneMyBot is able to place outbound calls. And this is really not the way chatbots work normally, but if there is a trigger to initiate a call, then the chatbot may become a conversational outbound application that may be used, I don't know, to remind people of appointments. So we were talking about use cases, and there are two levels of use case here. For PhoneMyBot, Inbenta is a use case. So in this case, a company that is well established, has a big installed base, and it's really proficient in doing conversational AI with text and other web-based widgets, if you want. But at the moment, doesn't have a voice channel, or didn't have it. So what we did was we've been talking for a while, and we developed an adapter for Inbenta using their API, and also with a number of tweaks that, by the way, we have a patent on to make different widgets on the web more natural for rendering them into speech. This is now in production, and it's one of the possible ways for PhoneMyBot to hit the market. The other one being, of course, with final customers, but we really like being partners with the conversational AI companies in this case. So having said that, I'm leaving it to Jordi, who will talk about the Inbenta side.
Thank you so much, Livio. So effectively, we are a case study for PhoneMyBot, and we have our own case studies of several customers that we'd like to talk about today to share what we've done and what we have learned and what we're learning. First, about Inbenta, I told you the story of the FAQ search engine. It's been a long way since then. Now we have offices in Europe, Barcelona and Toulouse and London, San Francisco. We have a big office in Sao Paulo in Brazil. We have presence in Japan as well through a partnership with NTT Communications over there. And we started very small, and now look at that, 27 million monthly conversations. That's what we are handling, most of them digital, but that is changing. It's changing thanks to companies like PhoneMyBot, who's helping us getting into a realm that we never been before. We are very international, started in Barcelona, which is an peripheric city in a peripheric country, in a peripheric continent. So we dedicate ourselves to make sure that our customers were able to use all the languages that they're using. At this point, we have more than 30 languages. And this resolution rate is what is the percentage of conversations that the chatbot is able to handle fully autonomically. And that's point we have like 96% plus at this point with customers like Pinterest and Groupon, Société Générale in France, Claro in Brazil, and as I said, Entity in Japan. So that's kind of our product set. So as I said at the beginning, we started with search, what we call semantic search, or how can I find the right FAQ at the right time? And then we're starting to say, hey, wait a minute, if you find the FAQ, can we make this FAQ interactive? Instead of having just, okay, you read the FAQ and say, to change your password, click here, it's like, why if the FAQ starts being active and asking questions instead of just answering questions? Well, essentially, that is a chatbot. A chatbot is an FAQ search that is very intelligent at finding the right answer and who, instead of just throwing at you some content that you have to digest, is asking you the clarifying questions in order to find the final answer. So this is how we have, hey, we believe that you can have a chatbot, is our chatbot product that solves hundreds of these intents. Then you still need the search engine, because guess what? When your users go to your website, there's going to be a long tail of questions that you don't have programmed in the chatbot. So having a search engine that is able to access your knowledge base, your FAQs, your website, your documents is very handy. You don't want a chatbot that says, I don't know, when you ask a question that is obviously related to the business, right? So that's why we combine all that with our knowledge management solution and our ticketing and chat system. And so this is, our story. And I met Livio and say, hey, we are a voice solution for chatbot, and we can connect both technologies. And I said, yeah, we have our API, and maybe we can do something together. So Livio said, no, we already did. I say, what? Yeah, that is connected. It is working. And call this number, and you will see that the try for free chatbot is there. So I called, hello, this is Inbenta chatbot. I could hear it. For the first time, I could hear my son speaking. That was amazing. So that's, it's like the chatbot was alive at some point. So that's great. So happy to have been opening our APIs, so they are able to connect and implement these amazing use cases like PhoneMyBot. And that's how we essentially are able to connect the idea of the chatbot with voice. Now, you go out there and you fight in the real world, and there is the reality of the customers, right? They say, hey, we don't want to start right away just having full conversations automated, because there are still things that need to work on, and you don't want to annoy your customers. So what I'm presenting here is a few use cases with some of our customers that have taken the path of finding ways to make sure that they transition into the voice in a way that is effective, productive, and not annoying customers. This use case that I'm presenting here, I'm not using logos, but that's Max Music, is an online store in the Netherlands. They are present as well in Belgium, UK, and France. And we've been working with them for a long time for the digital chatbot. And they say, hey, how can we use these voice-enabled solutions? So the way they do it is the following, and I think is very smart. They say, first, we have our call center. You call the call center. If there is an agent available, it's going to pick the call. No problem. Now, if the call center software detects that there are 5 or more users waiting, then it's like, okay, now VoiceBot is a good alternative, because anyways, you have to wait. So this is when the call is forwarded to PhoneMyBot, and then they say, hey, there is a lot of waiting time now, let me help you organizing a call me back. So the way they're organized, the chatbot is first, I'm here to help. I'm not here to avoid you to talking to a customer. It's just making it more convenient for you to talk to an agent because we will call you when we have time. Okay, so the chatbot collects the name, the number of information, and one of the things that the chatbot says is like, okay, what is your question about? How can I help you, right? Not because I'm preventing you from talking to an agent, but because I can help you. So, and they say, well, I don't understand my bill, or my guitar got screwed when I got home, whatever. And that's what Inbenta does, is takes that question and first tries to find an answer that will essentially solve the problem. And say, hey, that's what I would do, this is the answer, is that helping you? If the answer is yes, end of a story. The call ends there, and that's a problem solved fully automatically. If the user says no, well, still, thanks to our semantic capabilities, we are at least able to classify that call. So the right area of the call center, we will be able to actually call back. So a callback is scheduled, and that goes back into the queue in the call center. That's the use case. Now, a couple of more use cases here. So number one is FNAC, is a retail business in France. They are in many places in Europe, and that's a pilot that we started in Spain. So we've been working with them for a long time on the digital space. So they have our chatbot up and running over the website, on WhatsApp. WhatsApp is very popular in Europe and many other places, but also in Europe. So it's kind of a natural channel for digital assistance. So what we did is like, hey, let's start, instead of jumping into the call center, let's have special numbers that solve special issues. And here is where we took the same digital assistant, and with PhoneMyBot, we were able to create a phone number, have that up and running in a number of hours. So a few hours to say, hey, Mr. Customer, this is the phone number that you can start working with, and your chatbot is going to be live. They called the number, and oh my God, this chatbot is alive. The same effect happened, right? Is now the same experience, the same content works digitally. Some of the lessons that we learned is you have to look at the content. The idea you have the chatbot that works digital on the website, and then one day you put it on the WhatsApp channels, like, wait a minute, there are some things that we need to review on the content. And the same thing when you go voice. It's like, okay, careful with what you type. If it is very long, that's going to be a long speech by a chatbot, right? So how can we reduce that? How can we make more dialogues? And to some extent, an expression that we use at Inbenta, how we can botify the answer more, instead of just long texts that say, if you are unable to do this, then, or if you, instead of all these ifs, don't put ifs in the answer, ask the customer, are you eligible for this? Do you want that? And start creating more atomic content. It takes a little bit of time, yes. You have to think in terms of, instead of literature, you have to think in terms of dialogues, but it's so much worth it. And guess what? Once they did that, in order to optimize voice, then the same experience on digital is also more effective, because the conversations over a web widget or a WhatsApp window, they also get better flowing. So sometimes what we say is like our customers, like, think in voice first. When you design the chatbot, imagine that it needs to work on voice, because then it's going to work great on digital as well. So if you have click here to, that's not going to work on voice, or look at the picture on your right, that's not going to work on voice. So these are the kind of things that you need to do in order to have digital chatbots that go to voice. Another interesting use case here is Altera Mountain. They're a customer of ours for some time. They are a mountain resort owner, and they have several websites for different mountain resorts in the US. So we've been working with them for a long time. We started on the COVID here, skiing plus COVID didn't match very well. So they need to implement a lot of measures very quickly in order to make it safe for skiers to go out and enjoy the mountain and skiing, and all the way from booking to the experience being there in the resort, in the hotel, everything, right? So we help them with that, with our chatbot. And same thing, it's like, okay, how can we go voice with that? PhoneMyBot, put there a couple of hours, you have your phone number fully connected to the chatbot and ready to go. One of the things that we have learned with them is like, hey, now we see that we can have a chatbot design that serves voice and digital. And also, in order to implement that better, we have made some changes in the product as well to accommodate even better to the idea of voice. So you can have the content editor, you have content for digital, and you, if you want, you can have some content that say, well, that's the equivalent for voice. So you can start having chatbots with the mentality of, well, in some cases, that's the answer I want to give when the chatbot goes digital. That's the answer that I want to give when a customer goes voice. But in one development environment, you are doing both things, which is one of the great accomplishments over there. What I put together here is some of best practices, what we have learned, and things that we believe that's going to help a lot with our customers. We learned that, we're doing this. It takes a bit of time, but it pays off so much. One is what we call the multi-channel control flow. So you call, say, hey, Mr. Customer, what's your name? And if I say Jordi, my success ratio is going to be similar to Starbucks, which is, they never know. Oh, Jordan. No, Jordi. How can I spell that? So it's complicated. If, not to mention an email address or number, all these things are complex to communicate through phone, even with humans. But the cool thing about multi-channel control flow is like, say, okay, what's your name? Jordi. Oh boy, I don't understand that. So you know what? I'm sending now a text message to you right now. Give me your phone number. Give me your name. Because then you start having, and that's very difficult for a human to do, but super easy for a chatbot to do. It's like I'm communicating with you over voice, but over WhatsApp or text messages, I'm complementing that, right? So that's a great learn. The other is these microbots. So I'm talking to a human. Now, okay, I have to collect, we've done that for credit card information for a long time, but the idea of having specific tasks that bots can do, that we call microbots, is a great accomplishment and improves the life of agents as well as customers. And then give alternatives as well. You can continue over digital when necessary, right? So, right, you know, business benefits of all that. Of course, we don't say you can decrease the folks in your call center. I don't believe that's kind of the way our customers interact. What they say instead is like, hey, we can have less people maybe with better conditions, more talent, and actually in many of those customers that we work with, they want to embrace AI in order to keep their agents, which is an interesting way to do that. You can also, of course, benefit from having your existing conversational AI investments now entering into a totally different channel, which is voice. And if you do things right, we see that out there are chatbots for service, there are chatbots for sales. What about thinking about combining them both? What if you have a good service with a good conversion rate mentality? How can we have an upsell option? So by doing this, you can do all that. So that's basically the use cases I want to share with you guys. And
yeah, I want to thank you very much, and also say that, well, PhoneMyBot is looking for investors. So I just put it out there, right? And I don't know if this is the right audience, but call me or email me if you, yeah, if you are interested.
it works great. These guys are great.